It's been described as the gateway drug to ham radio. My take on the Baofeng UV-5R right now. Hey guys, I'm Kevin with Kemp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. Well, we have been doing a series on outdoor communications for your whole family. So my premise is that if you're outside camping, hiking, fishing, climbing, biking, horseback riding, whatever you're doing, and you're in areas where there are no cell phone towers or no cell phone signal, you need to have a plan to communicate with your family. And so we've been doing a series of videos on GMRS, MIRS, FRS, ham radio. We're going to be actually even getting into marine VHF here soon. So we're doing a lot of different videos on radios and radio reviews and when to pick each radio service and that kind of thing. So if you haven't seen my video on should you become a ham radio operator, I'm going to put a link right up here where you can check that out, because I highly recommend ham radio for outdoors enthusiasts. Now, you do not have to be a ham radio operator to use radios. You can definitely use FRS radios or MIRS radios without any kind of license. You can get a license for GMRS radios without having to take a test. But if you want to step up to have more bands, more radios, more choices, I highly recommend ham radios. And it doesn't get much cheaper, guys, than the Baofeng UV-5R. As of the recording of this video, I just went on Amazon a few minutes ago, and you can buy this 2-pack of radios that we're going to review today for $29.99, $15 a radio. That is absurdly cheap for a ham radio. Is it any good? Let's get into the review. We're going to start with an unboxing. All right, guys, here's the unboxing for the Baofeng UV-5R 2-pack. I'm going to get it open here. All right, so the first thing that we'll notice is there is a little user's manual. I don't spend a lot of time with the user's manuals, guys. If I can't figure something out, I just look it up online. A lot of these user's manuals aren't written very well, not very good English, but like I said, I don't spend a whole lot of time on them. It's in there if you want to use it. Next thing we notice is 2 charging cradles. So we've got a charging cradle for each radio, which is nice. They are AC plug charging cradles, so no DC plugs. You can't charge those on 12 volt, at least without modification. Set those aside. The next thing we've got is we've got 2 of the Secret Agent Man earpieces. I hate these things. If you've watched my videos before, you know I can't stand these things, so they've got to go. We have 2 belt clips. I'm a huge fan of belt clips, so excited about those. We'll set those aside. There are 2 antennas, so 1 for each radio. These are the standard Baofeng handheld radio antennas. So they're dual banders, 136 to 174 and 400 to 520 megahertz. So little standard rubber duck type antennas. 2 wrist straps. Huge fan of the wrist straps, guys. It's a great way to make sure that your radio comes back to you, especially when you put it in the hands of a kid. And then we have 2 UV-5Rs in the package and 2 batteries. Let's kick the box out of the way. Get these radios open. So there's packages. So there's the radios. And here are the batteries. So the batteries are 1800 milliamp amp hour batteries. And they're the standard Baofeng batteries, guys, so they do not have the USB-C rechargeable batteries. You can buy USB-C rechargeable batteries for these radios. I think they're like 16 bucks. I'll put a link to those on Amazon down below so you can check those out. Go ahead and slide them in. And of course, my favorite part of buying any electronic. And so if you notice, guys, the belt clip goes on the back of the radio, not on the back of the battery. I'm a big fan of belt clips on the radio because if you buy extra batteries, guys, you need to make sure that if you buy a radio that the belt clip is on the battery, that the battery comes with a belt clip. Otherwise, you have to buy more belt clips. And these things can be up to 10 bucks a piece. So not a whole lot of fun. Let's go ahead and throw the antennas on, just to see how they look. The antennas are SMA female antennas, so it's an SMA male connector on the radio. And these slide in, yep, and look just like that. Okay, guys, so as you can see, I bought the 2-pack, and like I said, as of the recording of this video, they're 30 bucks for 2. That's about as cheap as you can get. I remember when I got my ham radio license in 1995, I was 15 years old, and my dad bought me a used Kenwood TH215 2-meter handheld radio that didn't have nearly the amount of memories and features that these Baofengs have, and even used, I think it was over $100 back in the day. So that was a big investment. Ham radio used to be an expensive hobby to get into. Anything from the handhelds to the mobile radios to the high frequency radios that you can use to talk around the world. If you needed to get into ham radio on a budget, you were buying used equipment because ham radio is really expensive. That's not the case anymore with these Baofengs, as I've indicated. $15 for one or $30 for two. That is super cheap. So are they any good, right? Because you hear a lot of people complaining about Baofengs, that they're no good, that they transmit spurious emissions, that they're a cheap Chinese radio, that the Chinese are taking over everything, and so you shouldn't support Chinese products. You shouldn't buy stuff off Amazon, on and on and on. We hear all of these things. And so I'm just gonna cut to the chase and say, I love Baofeng UV-5Rs. I love them. Now, guys, there are much better radios on the market, and we're going to be doing some reviews of some of those here coming up, but I thought I'd start with this one as my first ham radio review, because if you are just getting into ham radio, most likely you are thinking about getting a Baofeng UV-5R, and you've probably heard either the champions of the UV-5R singing its praises or the detractors saying all kinds of horrible things about the UV-5R. So I figured we'd put it to the test. We're going to put it on a power meter. We're going to test for spurious emissions. And I'm just going to give you an overview of the features of the radio. So just to start off, this radio, I'm going to turn one on here,
channel mode,
is pretty comfortable in the hand. It's pretty small. I really like these for camping and hiking and things like that because they're cheap. So if I lose one or drop one or submerge one or whatever, I'm not out a whole lot of money. Typically for what I'm doing, I don't need a whole lot of features. I don't need a whole lot of channels, a whole lot of memory, a whole lot of, whatnot. I can just program these things with what I need and they just work. So I'm gonna zoom in here on the screen. Hopefully we can get rid of some glare. So you can see it is a dual watch radio, so it can monitor 2 frequencies. This is a dual band radio, so it operates in the 2-meter band, 144 to 148 megahertz, as well as the 70 centimeter band for ham radio, which I think 430 to 450. I can't ever remember the frequencies. It doesn't really matter because I always program my radios in to stay legal, but I think that's right. The bottom line is that you can listen to 2 channels at once, but once it detects signal on one of the channels, it will not listen to the other one. So it's not true dual receive. Dual receive is where both of those receivers would work independently. They don't. As soon as it hears one, it mutes the other one. So, but when no one's talking on either one, you can monitor both at the same time. So pretty cool. You can also turn that off and only monitor one channel for those of you who get confused. What channel am I on? What side of the radio am I on? Am I on the A side or the B side? You can turn that off and just monitor one. So that's pretty cool. It does have a memory mode or a VHO mode. VHO is when you can select or scan up and down the frequency range, all the different frequencies. A memory mode is where you can switch between the different memory channels you've programmed into the radio. And this radio takes 128 memories. So that's not a whole lot. If you want to program in all the repeaters and all the simplex frequencies and all the different things that you're going to use on this radio, you're going to run out of channels pretty fast, especially if you like to monitor certain things. So it's not legal to transmit on marine VHF with this radio. It's not legal to transmit on GMRS or FRS with this radio or MERS, but you can. You can monitor, you can listen. So if you want to program those channels in, you can. And technically this radio will transmit on those channels. So I don't think mine were locked at all when I powered them up. I did just program them with chirp. And so I always program my GMRS, my MERS, and my marine VHF channels into these radios because I do a lot of outdoor activity, and in an emergency, I may want to use any frequency at my disposal to call or respond to a call for help. So just keep that in mind. I'm also not a huge proponent of license by rule, which means that GMRS radios have to be licensed only for GMRS. And so if they transmit on anything other than a GMRS frequency, they're no longer legal for GMRS. So I honestly, if you have a ham radio license and you have a GMRS license, I don't care if you use one radio to talk on both services, but I'm not the FCC, guys. I don't make the rules. Sometimes I just break them, just being honest about it. But anyway, so I really do like the Baofeng UV-5R. It is advertised as a 5-watt radio. Some radios are advertised as 8-watt radios. The one I'm going to put down in the link below is the 2-pack advertised as 5-watt radios. Let's talk a little bit about spurious emissions, guys, because this is the one big thing that I've heard is that Baofengs are dirty. They transmit spurious emissions. And what a spurious emission is that on the frequency you are intending to transmit, not only is the radio transmitting on that frequency, but it's also transmitting on the harmonics of that frequency. So the second harmonic of 146.52 megahertz, which is the 2-meter simplex calling frequency for ham radio, is up in the 293 megahertz range. So if you have a dirty radio, when it transmits on the frequency you intend to transmit on, it's also putting out signal on the harmonics of that frequency. So you could be transmitting both in the 2-meter band and on 293 megahertz. And my understanding is that is a military aircraft band. So you don't want to be transmitting on that band. So you want to make sure, and you have a responsibility, if you're a ham radio operator, to make sure that you are using clean radios. So Baofeng has a history of dirty radios. And actually, I just bought 2 new radios, a Baofeng 5RM, because I was really excited about that radio. I bought 2 of them, neither of them passed spurious emissions test, shipped them back. So don't buy radios that have spurious emissions. But I would say that Baofeng has really cleaned up their act when it comes to the UV-5R, because these radios have passed their spurious emissions test, both of them, and I'm going to show you right now. Okay guys, so I'm going to power up my Tiny SA, which is a spectrum analyzer. This thing is awesome, and hopefully you guys can see the screen. I'm dealing with a little bit of glare here, so I killed the lights. Hopefully this helps a little bit. What we need to do is we need to set this up to measure the harmonic from 146.52 megahertz. So we're going to come over to the menu. I'm going to hit Measure, Harmonic, 146.52 megahertz. We're going to do a full span, so I just hit 0. Okay, now we need to change the level because we have a 40 dB attenuator on here. So we're going to go to external gain minus 40 times 1. Now, we need to draw a line because in addition to the requirements of the harmonics being 40 dB below the fundamental, they also need to be below 25 microwatts. And so we're going to draw a line here, and 25 microwatts is negative 16.02 dB. Okay, so now we have our line drawn. And so I'm going to key up on the transmitter, and we are going to measure the fundamental and the harmonics and see what we get. Now, when I do this, when I'm first transmitting, you're going to see some spurs. And it takes a little bit for the spectrum analyzer to measure things. So don't worry when you see some spurs come up. And as you see, as it scans, it's going to normalize. So this first spike there, that's our fundamental frequency at 146.52 megahertz. And as you can see, this radio is clean. No spurs above the blue line. In fact, no spurs at all. So I'm going to unkey. Now, just to show you that this is an anomaly, I'm going to test the other radio that came in the pack. Okay, so we just got done testing this one. Now we're going to test the other one here. And we're on 146.52. And so here we go. Actually keyed up the other radio because I forgot to turn it off. Okay. So as we can see, fundamentals rising. We have two little harmonics. We're going to see if they drop out. They never come above the blue line, but as I said, as this scans, it gets a clearer picture of what's happening. And those harmonics drop out. So both of these Baofengs are clean right out of the box, ready to go. Okay guys, we are going to start with 2 meters on low power on 146.52, and I'm transmitting into a dummy load. So here we go. My transmit here. So here we go, transmitting into a dummy load. We have 1.44 watts on low power, KB8 WPD testing. All right, now we're gonna go to high power.
Menu. Power. Confirm.
Okay, here's high power, KB8 WPD testing. So 4.77 watts out of a 5 watt radio. That's not bad. Let's go to the 70 centimeter band. We're gonna do this on low power. So here we go. KB8 WPD testing. So it looks like 1.78 watts on low power. All right, and then we're gonna go to high power.
Confirm.
Okay, and here's high power on the 70 centimeter band, KB8 WPD testing, and it looks like 5.12 over 5 watts on 70 centimeters on high power, KB8 WPD. Okay guys, so as you can see, it passed the power test, it passed the spurious emissions test. What do I really like about the radios besides the price? Well, it's really, really simple. One, they're pretty durable. I have used these outside a lot, so they take a beating for me, and I've only had to replace one UV-5R variant. It was a GMRS radio that got soaked in a rainstorm, and it still functioned, guys. It even transmitted and everything, but the speaker was a little wonky, so at a $20 radio, I just decided to replace it. I really like how they're lightweight. I think they're pretty rugged. They have a lot of accessories available to them, guys, and the accessories are cheap. One of the things that I really like about this is I can use the Kenwood K1 style connector, which is this port on the side, right? So right there, where you can plug in a programming cable, and you can program this radio with Chirp, which is a free software download, which is awesome because you can program the radio via a computer. Or guys, you can use the TID radio Bluetooth programmer and program it right from your phone. I'm going to put a link to a video I did right up here on that programmer from TID radio. Really, really cool. Easy way to add memories to your radio while you're on the go. Really cool. I like that. I like that programmer a lot. But The accessories are really cheap, guys. Extra batteries are really cheap. Extra speaker mics, those kind of things. Earpieces, battery eliminators, where you can plug this thing into your cigarette lighter of your car and just run it right off your car. You don't need the battery plugged in. I love those. All of the accessories for these things are cheap, guys. I'm going to put a link down in the description below. Actually, I'm going to put links down in the description below of some of my favorite Baofeng accessories. So if you want to get a Baofeng and you want to get the accessories, I'm going to put links below where you can get those. The other thing that I really recommend is you go ahead and you update your battery to USB-C charging capability. Now that doesn't come with the kit that I'm going to put in the link, but the USB-C rechargeable batteries are dirt cheap, guys, and they work awesome. I love being able to charge my batteries via USB-C, and I don't have to carry around all those cradles. So I recommend that. It's got some goofy stuff, like it's got a flashlight up top and stuff like that I don't use. It's typical with Chinese radios. And guys, these antennas are pretty much next to worthless, so I highly recommend getting a signal stick antenna. I'll put a link down in the description below where you can see signal stick antennas. Those are great upgrades to the stock antenna. But other than that, guys, for right now, $15 a radio, $30 if you buy two, it's really hard not to jump into the ham radio world with a UV-5R. You're not spending the money that you used to have to spend. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who use these radios without a license. And guys, that's not okay. You need to be licensed if you're operating on ham frequencies. You need to be licensed if you're operating a GMRS radio on GMRS frequencies. One of the things that really frustrates me about this radio is it's advertised on Amazon as an FRS radio. Guys, it is not. 1, it transmits too much power. 2, it transmits on frequencies that aren't FRS. 3, it has a detachable antenna. All those things make this illegal for use on an FRS frequency or as a GMRS radio. The bottom line is, guys, is in general, I am not a huge stickler for the rules, but some rules I am. You need to be licensed for the radio service you intend to use, and you need to operate the radio properly. If you're going to be on ham radio frequencies, you need a ham radio license. If you're going to be on GMRS frequencies using a GMRS type radio, you need to have a GMRS license. Guys, it's cheap. And honestly, studying for a ham radio license and learning the material that you need to know to pass the test is really good for you to know how to operate a radio appropriately. It's very important that not only that you have these, but you know how to use them and you know how to use them properly. Because I always say owning a gun and assuming you're safe is like owning a piano and assuming you're a musician, right? The same goes with radios. Owning a radio and assuming you can communicate on that radio without knowing anything about radios is not a good plan. Because in an emergency situation, when you fire up that radio for the first time and you know, I need to hit the button and talk and hopefully get somebody, do you know what frequency you're on? Do you know what channel you're on? Do you know what power level you're on? Do you know whether or not you have a chance of either transmitting to or receiving a signal from your intended person that you're trying to communicate with? Do you have any idea how these things work? Ham radio will teach you how a radio works, and that's why I recommend being a ham radio operator, or at least getting your ham radio license if you're even going to operate GMRS or FRS radios or those kind of things. Is it will teach you the fundamentals of how to use a radio, and that's really, really important. But guys, I love the Baofeng, and I highly recommend everyone who wants a ham radio license get a Baofeng. These are cheap enough, you can throw them in your car with a USB-C battery and keep them charged up, plug them in from time to time, charge them up, and you always have a radio on the go in your car. You can put one in every car you own. You can put one in your RV, you can put one in your camper, you can put a couple of them in there. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about making a box with about 4 of these in there with all the stuff that I need and just leave it in the car that we just use around town. That way, if I'm ever out somewhere and I need to equip my family with radios for communications if cell phones are down or whatever. I just pull the kit out and give out radios. It'll probably be a combination of ham radios and GMRS radios because my son and I are ham radio operators, and my wife and my younger son are covered under my GMRS license. So it'll probably be a combo of radios. But regardless, these things are dirt cheap, so you can have them everywhere. You can have one sitting on your desk. You can have one sitting at the office. You can have them everywhere. These are awesome for that. And they're super easy to use. So guys, I am pro Baofeng UV-5R. I want to know what you think. Do you think these are the biggest piece of crap in ham radio? Or do you think they're an awesome way for people to get started in ham radio? Let me know what you think. Drop something in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Guys, I'm Kevin with Kemp Outside, your inside source for all things outside. We exist to help moms and dads take their kids camping, hiking, fishing, learn about nature, and develop a conservation ethic. We want to help you get you and your kids outside. That's why we're doing this series on communications for outdoors. We want to make sure that you can communicate with your group, and in an emergency, communicate with someone else so that you don't have to rely on cell phones, especially when there's no cell phone service. Guys, if you have any questions about ham radio or the Baofeng UV-5R, drop some in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Or you can hit me up on my other social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Or you can connect with us at our website at kempoutside.com. Guys, we have a whole lot more coming for you in this series on communications for outdoors enthusiasts. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon that notifies you when we release new videos. Our next comms video is going to be on our choice of handhelds for marine VHF for when we're out on pontoon fish. So if you're interested in marine VHF comms or specifically a handheld for marine VHF, don't miss it. We'll see you next time.